I recently acquired a 1970 280 SL. That's a W113 chassis. And when I bought the car, it came with a brand new complete wiring harness that you see here. This is the whole harness. You're looking at this whole piece here is from the headlight switch goes all the way back to the tail lights. Comes with the new battery cables, and then look at this. This, folks, is a lot of wires and a lot of connections. There's also a lot of soldering required. Now let me tell you about this harness. I want to sell it, but I want to find the right person to buy it. Okay, and I want to tell you what happened. The car had some a major short through the headlight switch, which melted a primary lead from the starter motor all the way up to the headlight switch. Did quite a bit of damage inside the harness, and the previous owner purchased this wiring harness out of Germany. Now I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not sure where they purchased it from. A mechanic purchased it for them. They didn't get any receipts. It's obviously not an OE German Mercedes-Benz wiring harness. I can tell by the terminals and so on. But it is a high-quality harness, and if you've priced these complete harnesses, they're pretty expensive. In fact, they're real expensive. And there's only certain times you would need to replace an entire wiring harness. One of them, of course, would be any type of a major engine fire would require a complete replacement. You may not need to do the taillights, but a lot of times people, if they're going to do the whole wiring harness up front. The other thing might be on a frame-off restoration, if maybe some rats got to the wires, I don't know. But here's the deal. I'm going to come in close here, kind of let you see this up close. And then if any of you out there are interested, you have a 113. Now, I do not know. Please do not ask me if this will work on a 230 SL or a 250 SL. I don't have any information. I've got some sheets from a company I suspect it might came from, and there's a lot of information on the internet about wiring harnesses. And here's a whole list of all the connections here, and then of course here's the harness itself, and then of course you can get color-coded wiring diagrams now online, so that's not the problem. But let me show you the wiring harness up close now. Here's kind of a picture of what the wiring harness looks like. There's sections of it. This particular harness here comes in two major sections, and it's pretty obvious. I mean, I did enough comparison to know that this is definitely a wiring harness for a W113, and the rear harness for the tail lights going back to the rear of the car is pretty straightforward. There's nothing very sophisticated about it. You're going to have a lot of soldering. Remember, you have all these Mercedes type plugs, and they don't come with the new harness, okay? You have to take these apart. You can pull that cap off and pull these out. What I recommend is you use a camera, take pictures and make notes, so that you make sure when you resolder the little pins back on and put this back together, you get this right. Can you imagine the problem you run into if you don't do this properly and you put it in the car and things don't work right, trying to troubleshoot it, okay? So you have some large bundles. This one here, right here, this is the largest bundle of terminal ends. This goes to the fuse box, all right? This is when I first noticed there was something, a little awry, because when I compared this with the wires in my car, almost everything lined up as far as colors except for one or two wires, maybe three wires. One of the things the original wiring harness did was it used three colors on some of the wires. And this harness only uses two colors. Only two colors on these wires. Every wire is either one or two colors, where the OE wire in harness, some of the wires had a third little spiral, a little spiral color that would differentiate it from another yellow. See, here you have a yellow, and here you have another yellow. See, it's kind of a different yellow, and here you have a yellow with a black stripe. So you might get confused on these two yellows right here. Now the OE harness would have maybe another fine color in this yellow on this smaller wire, but there are different thicknesses, so that may help. You have other, you've got a headlight switch that you got to wire in. I don't know exactly, I think it's this one here, but you also have a number of these. Look at these. All of these have to be soldered into multiple pin plugs. Once again, you have to be very, very careful how you solder and how you replace the plugs back into the plug holder. You got that? And once again, in some quick comparisons, I noticed there were a couple times where the colors were a little confusing, and did not match up with what was in the car. Now, if you could read a wiring diagram, you could work around that. You could do some continuity testing. Let's say you're trying to find a green here and a green here, and there's like 3 greens. But if you look closely, this has a green and a white and a green and a black. This is solid green, and this over here is also green. So if it gets confusing, you're going to have to do some continuity tests and figure out by reading the wiring diagram and following this through with your ohm meter to check where this goes, to confirm before you start soldering. So you can see if I flip this over, the only plug on this harness is the plug that goes into the voltage regulator. I think that's the only plug, and everything else is either terminal ends or wires to solder. So can you see the amount of fun that you're going to have when you replace a wiring harness in a car like this? You got multiple ground connections that you have to be really careful you get in the right position. So I'm a little concerned that whoever gets this wiring harness needs to understand this is not going to be a direct color to color match and plug and go if you install this wiring harness in your car. There's some discrepancies. You can work around it. Once again, you need to understand automotive electricity, and you need to be experienced in this type of work, or I would not recommend that you get this harness. There's the scoop. You can see, even if this wiring harness were 100% accurate, this job is not for the faint of heart, and this wiring harness in particular is not for the electrically challenged individual. You need to be somebody that's highly experienced with automotive electrical wiring. You need to be able to trace circuits. You need to be able to recode wires, and you need to know how to read wiring diagrams. If you don't know how to read wiring diagrams, please do not buy this wiring harness, okay? I don't know what others have come across with some of these harnesses out there, but it's not as it appears, okay? You get a harness, you think, oh man, I should just be able to pull the old one out and in a few hours just plug everything in and away you go. Well, you've already seen that you've got a lot of soldering to do, and you're going to have some tracing to do and some retesting and diagnostics before you get too crazy. It's very time consuming, and it takes a lot of patience, let me tell you, a lot of patience. I ended up fixing the wiring harness in my 280SL, and it was a huge job. I mean, just going through and replacing wires through the harness and rebundling it and resoldering connections where we had to remove them to get sections out of the car. I mean, we spent hours and hours, folks. So, but if you know what you're doing, okay, if you know what you're doing, and you need a 280SL wiring harness, I'm going to price this pretty attractively for you. I'll put it on my website. You can check out. I want to make sure whoever buys this, don't be surprised if I email you and ask you if you've watched this video, because I want to make sure whoever buys this wiring harness knows what they're getting into. So I'll put a link below in the show more description of this YouTube video. Remember, you're not going to see it. YouTube cuts off the descriptions below, and you can't read it all. You have to click show more. And I'll put a link to my website where this is for sale. I'll have the price and the information on shipping and so on. I'll also put some links below on some of the videos I've shot on my 280SL you might be interested in seeing. how I acquired the car and the progress to date. So if you're a W113 enthusiast, I hope I can help you out. On a side note, there's a couple things that I want to share with you. We did, this is like, you don't know how exciting it is, by the way, if you haven't done this extensive type of electrical work. We got the wiring harness complete repaired, everything back together, all the plugs in, and it worked. The engine started. Hadn't run in 4 years. Can you imagine how excited we were? The engine ran, and the gauges worked, and the clock worked, and even the Becker radio worked. So, I'm pretty happy, okay? Pretty happy. Sometimes it doesn't always come out that way, okay? I don't claim to be the world's expert in automotive electrical wiring and troubleshooting, but boy, you can get in a situation where you can just pull your hair out over some wiring problems you'll run into on these old cars. And I had so much fun, I'm going to say quote unquote fun, doing this to my 280SL that I actually filmed some sequences of I learned some things new. I mean, I do this all the time, particularly when you get into something that's really tough. And I learned some new tricks and figured out a new method of end soldering wires in really tight places. So I'm going to do a complete video series. This will be a multi-part series on basic automobile wiring and electrical troubleshooting. So you might want to check that out. You'll get to see some of the things we actually did to the 280SL in that video, and some of the quote tricks and tips. I had to stretch and push and pull, and I had a sore neck and a sore back trying to lay under the dash, and boy, I tell you, I was really, really tired and burned out when that job was done. But it's great. There's something about the adrenal rush when you take on a big job like this wiring harness, and you do it right, and everything works. I don't know if any of you have overhauled an engine, but that's how you feel when you overhaul an engine and you fire it up for the first time. It's just a great feeling. So I don't think the electrical videos will be up when this video goes up, but when they are, I will also put links below in the show more and direct you to them if you want to check out my video series on automotive electrical wiring and troubleshooting procedures.